Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first project in the MySQL series. Today, we're going to be focusing on data cleaning. Now, if you don't know what data cleaning is, it's basically where you get it in a more usable format. So you fix a lot of the issues in the raw data that when you start creating visualizations or start using it in your products, that the data is actually useful and there aren't a lot of issues with it. So that's really what data cleaning is. Now, what we're about to do is create a database. We're going to import a data set. This is a real data set. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean the data. So I'm going to show you and walk you through all the steps in order to clean the data. The data set that we're going to be working with will be in the GitHub. So you can just go and download that. I'll have a link somewhere in the description, but let's get started. First thing we're going to do is create a new database. So we'll go right over here to create a new schema. And we're just going to call this one, we'll do this as world underscore layoffs. So if you can't tell already, we're going to do world layoffs. That's the data set that we're going to be doing. We'll just click apply, and that creates our world layoffs right here. Now we're going to go into here. There are no tables. We're going to right click on tables and go to table data import wizard. Now we haven't done this yet in this series. We haven't imported any data, but that's what we're doing here. We're going to show you how to import data. So we'll go ahead and click browse. And as you can see right here, we have this layoffs data set. Let's open this up and we're going to click next. And we're going to create a new table. There's no existing table in this database. You can drop it if it exists. If you'd like to, it doesn't matter. This is new. We're going to go ahead and select next. Now, right here is where you configure import settings. Now, MySQL is going to automatically assign a data type based off of the data in these columns. So we'll take a look at the data later. Now, there is one thing that you can take a look at real quick. We have this date column. Now, in here, it assigned it as a text. That's because of the format. We are going to import this as the raw data. We're not going to try to change anything in the import settings. We're just going to assume this is how the data was in the table. So I'm not going to change anything, although this may be something that you would want to change to something like a date time and go and fix that. But we're going to import this as the raw data. Let's go ahead and select next. We're going to import it. We just select next. Now this could take a little bit. So while this is importing, I'm just going to skip ahead. This should take just a few minutes to import. All right, this just finished. Let's select next. And we imported 2,361 records. Let's go ahead and select finish. We can get rid of this and let's refresh this. Perfect. We have our layoffs table. So we'll select everything and I'm going to go and double click on the world layoffs because I don't want to write out the whole thing every time. So we're going to say from layoffs and let's see what we get. So let's take a look at the data that we're going to be working with in this data cleaning project. So this data set is layoffs from around the world, starting I think 2021, and we'll take a look at that in this date column later. But it has the company. So it has the company that did the layoffs. It has the location of where they are, what industry they are part of, how many they laid off, the percentage that they laid off, so the percentage of their company, the date, the stage, which refers to the stage that the company is in, whether it's a Series B, post IPO, they don't know. Then there's the country, and then we have funds raised millions. So we have a lot of information here. And in the next project, we're going to be doing exploratory data analysis. So we're cleaning all of this data. And then in the next lesson, we're going to actually dive into it and try to find trends and patterns and all these other things. So what we are going to do is we're going to go through multiple steps. Step number one is we are going to try to remove duplicates if there are any. That is the first thing I typically do, especially if I know this data shouldn't have any duplicates or it'd be, repetitive or unnecessary to have duplicates. The second thing is going to be to standardize the data. That just means that if there are issues with the data with spellings or things like that, we just want to standardize it to where it's all the same as it should be. Number three is we'll look at the null values or blank values. And there's a lot of null values in here. There's even a blank value right here. And we're going to see if we can populate that, if we can. And there are times where you should, there are times where you shouldn't. I'll kind of walk through that as well. And lastly, we want to remove any columns and rows that aren't necessary. And there's a few different ways to do that. This one is a little bit, let me write this actually real quick. Remove any columns. So I'm just going to say there are instances where you can do this. There are instances where you shouldn't do this. When you're working with massive data sets and you have a column that's completely irrelevant, completely blank, you don't have any ETL process that is required for it, you can get rid of it and it can save you time when you're querying your data. Now, with that being said, and we'll talk about this later, in the real workplace, oftentimes you have processes that automatically import data from different data sources. If you remove a column from the raw data set, that's a big, big problem. So what we're going to do is something I would actually do in my real work, which is I would create some type of staging or raw data set. Let's say this one's our raw one, and we could have even called this layoffs_raw. We're going to create another one. We're going to create a table. So we'll say create table, and let's call this one layoffs_staging. And we literally just want to copy all of the data from the raw table into the staging table. So we can do that really quickly by just saying like layoffs. And if we run this and we refresh, you'll see we have this staging database. And let's copy this. Here we go. And we'll do layoffs_staging. And so now we have all of the columns, and all we have to do is insert the data. So we're just going to say insert, then we're going to say layoffs staging. Go right here, and we'll select everything from layoffs. And let's run this. And if we select the table, we now have all the data over. So super, super easy. And now we have these two different tables. Now, again, why do we do this? Is because we're about to change the staging database a lot. If we make some type of mistake, we want to have the raw data available. This does happen. This is something that you do in the real workplace because you're not going to work on the raw data. You shouldn't do it. It's not best practice. So I'm going to show you what I would actually do in my, like a real job. So that's what we're going to do. Now we're only going to be working off the staging database, and we can copy this and make different databases for different things. As long as we have our raw data, we can really do anything we want going forward. And that's what we're going to do. So the number one thing we're going to look at is to make sure that we are removing duplicates. We want to make sure we don't have any duplicate data in here. And if so, we're going to get rid of it. Now, really quickly, if you did my Microsoft SQL Server project, we did something very similar, but we had an extra column over here that gave the unique row ID, which made it really easy to remove the duplicates. Here, there is no identifying factor that's going to be easy for that. So I'm just going to tell you up front, removing these duplicates is not going to be easy. We'll walk through it every step of the way. So what we can do is try and do something like a row number, and we'll match it against all of these columns. And then we'll see if there are any duplicates. Now, we're starting off strong. Okay, we're jumping into kind of some of the more advanced things. It does get actually easier as we go, but this is the actual order that I follow. So I'm going to keep it. So let's try to identify duplicates. So let's copy this. Let's pull this down, do _staging. There we go. Now, what we can do is we can do row number, and we'll do that partition by basically, we could do every single one of these columns. That's kind of what we're doing. So what we can do is we can say everything, then we can do a comma, and we'll say row_number, and it would be just like this. And we're going to do this over. And we want to partition by all of these columns, essentially. We could just do a few for now to see if we get any hits, and then we can look at that. But there are going to be multiple companies that have layoffs in the same location and industry, although their total laid off would probably be different. The date would probably be different. So if we do something like company, let's do industry, we will do total_laid_off, comma, percentage laid off, and then let's do date. Now I'm doing date with the backticks because date is a keyword in MySQL. So if we do it like this, it just really makes it easy. So we're going to partition by all of these things. So let's do partition by, and let's bring this down real quick. So I'm just going to say over partition by, and we're going to call this as row_num. Now let's try running this. Let's see if it works really quickly. It's important. And over here, you can see that we have our row number. Now these mostly are unique, and these all look unique. I'm not going to scroll through all of them, but we want to be able to filter on this. So we can filter where the row number is greater than 2. If it has 2 or above, that means there's duplicates. That means there's an issue. So let's go ahead and we're going to take this. We'll put it into either a subquery or a CTE. I'll create a CTE for this because it's really easy. So we'll say for, or not for, we'll say with, and then we'll do duplicate underscore CTE as, then we'll just do our parentheses. We'll paste this in here and get rid of that right there. And now we're going to say select everything from this duplicate CTE. And then we'll say where row underscore num is greater than 1. Now let's run this and let's add a semicolon. Let's run this. And you can see that these ones have duplicates. So these are our duplicates actually. And we want to get rid of these exact rows. Now, just to confirm that these are the duplicates, let's look at this one. I've never heard of this company, but we'll take it really quick. And let's select, we'll say where company is equal to, and we'll call this Oda. So let's run this. And it looks like these, no. These aren't duplicates. That's a good thing we checked, okay? Because it looks like these aren't the exact same. Although they're very, very close, these technically are not duplicates. So I'm glad we checked this. We need to do this partition by over every single column. That's what I'm realizing. So we'll do company, comma, location. I'm genuinely glad it's good to make mistakes and figure things out as you go. It really is important. So company, location, industry, total laid off, percentage laid off, date. Then we'll do stage, and then we'll do country, and then funds underscore raised underscore millions. So we're changing the CTE to partition over everything. So now let's run this. Okay, Oda is not in there. That's the only one we checked. But let's look at Casper. I know this. These are the aren't these the mattress people? I didn't know they had layoffs. Poor guys. All right, let's take a look. And it looks like this row and this row are duplicates. These are our duplicates. So we are going to want to remove only one of those. We don't want to remove all of those. So just looking at this one example, it looks like this query is working well. So here's our duplicates. Now we need to identify these exact rows. We don't want to delete both of them. When we looked at Casper, there's the real one that we want to keep. Then there's a duplicate that we want to remove. We don't want to remove both. That would be bad. Now in MySQL, it's a little bit trickier to remove things than it is in something like Microsoft SQL Server, PostgreSQL. They have different ways that they can delete rows. For example, in Microsoft SQL Server, we could literally identify these row numbers in the CTE and delete them from it, and it would delete it from the actual table. We can't do that in MySQL, and I'll show you. Let's actually copy this. We'll go like this, and we'll say, let's say we want to delete these. We'll say delete from, we're deleting this from where the row number is greater than 1. What am I writing right here? Delete, there we go. So delete from this duplicate CTE where the row number is greater than 1. That's all these duplicates. We want to remove them. Let's try to do this. Let's run it. Let's go down. If we look at the bottom, it says the target table duplicate CTE of the delete is not updatable. So you cannot update a CTE. A delete statement is like an update statement, essentially. So what we are going to do is we're going to do something a little bit different because this is how I would love to do it. That makes it super, super easy to remove duplicates. But that is not always the way that things happen in the real world. I think what we should do is take this right here, and let's run this. We should take this right here and put this into, let's say, a staging 2 database, and then we can delete it because we can filter on these row nums and we can delete those which are equal to 2. So it's essentially like, creating some type of table and then just deleting the actual column. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So it's essentially just creating another table that has this extra row and then deleting it where that row is equal to 2. So, somewhat fairly straightforward, but let's try it and let's see what happens. So what we're going to come down here and do is create our table. Let's try doing that with here. Let's copy to clipboard a create statement. Let's see if this works. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, all we're going to do is say we're creating the table layoff staging 2. Now, this is a create table statement, and we're naming the columns, and then we're also assigning the data type. So we have all these things, but we want one more. We're gonna do a comma, and we want to add row underscore num, and I need to underscore num. And that should be an integer data type. So we'll just keep it just like this. Let's go ahead and copy this, and let's run it. See if it worked. Bring this up. Looks like it worked properly. And let's say, let's go back up. I want to rewrite things that I don't have to. Let's run this. So now we have this empty table. So we want to insert this information right here. So we're going to insert into, so we'll insert into, and then we'll do this right here. So insert into staging 2. Now let's try to run this, see if it works. And let's run it. And let's select that table. And now we have it. So let's pull this back up and I'll walk through what we just did because I know I'm going quick, but we have so much to cover in this lesson. So we just inserted basically a copy of all these columns, but in this new table, we added one more, the row num. So now we can filter, we can say where, I need to spell that right, where row underscore num is equal to 2, or we should say greater than 1 because some might have multiple duplicates. And there you go. Here are our duplicates. Now we're going to delete these. So all we have to do is come right back down. Where did I go? Copy this, come right back down here. And we're just going to say delete from. We just did a select statement. I always recommend doing that to identify what you're deleting. Then you change it to delete. And now if we run this, go. And I'm actually going to keep this. Let me see. There we go. And let's run it again. And now they're gone. And if we say just the whole table, this looks wonderful. Now this row num is going to be a column at the end that we probably don't need anymore, right? It's a redundant column. It adds up extra space in memory and storage and all these other things and processing times. We're just going to get rid of it. That'll be at the very end, I'm sure. So it looks like we are good to go. That's how we remove duplicates. Now, there are different ways to do it when you have different columns. Like if you have a unique column over here, makes it so much easier. So much easier. But we didn't have that, so we had to kind of do a workaround. Welcome to the real world. Now, let's look at standardizing data. So standardizing data is finding issues in your data and then fixing it. So I'm already noticing right here, it looks like we have a space at the beginning. We could easily just do a trim on this column. Unless I don't even think I did this when I wrote out all the scripts for this. Let's just do from this table. Why am I writing it all out again? We actually want to select the company and then we'll just do distinct company. Distinct company. Let's run this. And if we do trim around this, let's run this again. And that looks better. So if we do company, comma, and then we'll just do the trim. I don't want to, we don't need to do distinct right now. We'll do the company. This just looks better. So we're going to update that. It's super easy. Now, if you ran into an issue just a second ago, I may need to help you change that. So if you couldn't update or delete those things earlier, I should have told you this earlier. I apologize. All you need to go is to edit. You just need to go to edit, go to preferences at the very bottom, go to SQL editor, go all the way down to the bottom. And right here, we have safe updates on. If you have this selected, that means you can't update anything. That's a problem. So what you need to do is select this or unselect it like I have it and save it. You may have to even restart your MySQL potentially in order for those changes to take effect, but then you should be able to update that. Now, all we're going to do is update this table and we're going to set, and now we need to come back here and we'll say, we're going to set the company equal to trim. Now, if you don't know what trim is, or you haven't taken that lesson, trim just takes off the white space off the end. So it took the white space out of here or off the right-hand side as well. So we're going to update this and let's do a semicolon. Let's run this. Let's select this again. And it was updated properly. So we're already off to a great start. Now, the next thing that I want to take a look at is the actual industry. So let's go back copy this. And let's take a look at the industry. So we'll do industry and we'll run it. Now, if you look in here, there's a ton of different industries. And there's marketing and marketing. Oh, because I haven't done distinct. Please ignore me. Let's do distinct. And there's a ton of different industries in here. Transportation, healthcare, consumer. There's a blank one, which we'll take a look at. Aerospace. There's a lot of really unique ones. Let's actually order this. We'll do order by, and let's just do one, which is the first column. We're just ordering our own self. So we have null, we have blank. That's a problem. We'll take a look at that later. But this is an issue. Crypto, cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrency. These are all the same thing. These should all be on or labeled the exact same thing. The reason we need to change this is because when we start doing the exploratory data analysis, visualizing it, these would all be their own rows, their own unique thing, which we don't want. We want them all to be grouped together so we can accurately look at the data. Let's take a look at any other ones. Fintech and finance, that could be the same thing. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a fintech person. I think for now, the only one that I'm confident in changing is this one right here, which is cryptocurrency. So let's go ahead and update that. So all we have to do, and we need to actually, let's select really quickly where it's like crypto. So we'll say where industry, and we want to select everything. Where the industry is like, and we'll just do crypto, because they all start with crypto, right? Yeah. We'll do crypto just like this, and let's run this. And let's just take a look. A lot of layoffs in the crypto industry. Good night. All right, let's find where it's cryptocurrency. Okay, so even this one, it's crypto, and I know Gemini, crypto, and then it says cryptocurrency. So these should be all crypto. You see how 95% of them are crypto. So we're going to update these other ones. Oh, this one is CRYPT. Is that how you spell crypto? Geez, I don't know anything. All right, so we want to update all of them to be crypto. So what we're going to do is we're going to say update layoffs industry 2. We want to set the industry equal to crypto, just like this. Where, and we can do it a few different ways. We can say industry, I think we can do like, let's try this real quick. Some of this stuff I don't have planned out. I'm just kind of going with it as we go, which I like better. You know, we work together on this. We figure these things out together. That's what I like. Then we'll do like crypto, just like this, exactly like we had it up here. So if it's like crypto, it should be crypto. Let's try this. Let's see if it ran, because it may not have, I can't remember. Yeah, it worked. Okay, so it updated 3 rows, and that looks correct. Now let's go back up and let's run this. And as we scroll down, they are all the exact same. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So if we do distinct industry again, let's get rid of this. If we run this query and we scroll down, crypto is its own thing, beautiful. And it looks great. We can look at those later on how we can update those. But let's keep going. Let's look at our whole table again. And these blanks and these nulls are actually an issue. We do need to deal with them, but my instinct is telling me go fix it. But my tutorial side is saying, okay, stick with the tutorial, the order that we agreed on. So let's go take a look. We've looked at company, we've looked at industry. Let's just real quick look at distinct location. Now, it's good to look at most of these things, right? There could be small, tiny issues that you just never saw. And we're just going to order by 1, just do a real quick, just a scan to see if we find any issues. That could be an issue, but that could just be another language, if I'm being honest. I don't know. I'm just scrolling through here because I want to make sure, because this is not something I had in my pre-written script. This looks pretty good to me. Let's do everything. We'll run this, and now let's look at country. So we'll do distinct country, and let's run this. And let's scroll down. Again, this is sometimes just what I actually do. All right, we got an issue right here. Super common. Somebody put a period at the end, some dingus. And we're not going to judge that person. I don't know who it was or who ruined this data set, but yeah, that's a problem. So we're going to need to just update that. It looks pretty simple, but I'll just say where country is equal to, or let's say like, and then I'll say like United States. There we go. And oops, I want to say select everything. I just want to see where it's at. Oh, geez, there's too many. Let me see if I can spot it. I can't spot it. It looks like they're supposed to be United States, not United States dot. That's the issue. We can easily fix this, and we can probably, let's do really quickly. Let's do select distinct, and then we'll do country, comma, and then we'll do a trim because we want to get rid of that, that one. We'll do country. Now, just doing the trim won't fix it. Let's go to the bottom. So doing the trim doesn't fix it. But here's what you can do. It's a little trick of the trade here. We're going to do something called trailing, which means coming at the end. So what's trailing? The period from country. Let's try running this. Scroll to the bottom, and it fixed it. So this is a little advanced little tidbit for the trim here. We can do trailing from the country. We're looking for something that's not a white space. We're specifying we're looking for a period. So now what we can do is we can say update. We can set the country, do update this table, and we'll, and we'll set, what am I doing? What's going on here? We'll set the country equal to, and we'll do it just like this, but we're only going to do it for country, right? So we'll say is equal to trim, and then we'll say where country is equal to, or actually let's say like, and let me see if I have this. Oh, I don't. Let's just say like United States, like we had it before. Just like this. So let's go ahead and update this after I put my semicolon in. Let's run this. And let's run this again. And it shouldn't need to fix it anymore. It's just one row. That's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Now, one thing that's really important, and this is, this is a longitudinal, it's not the right word at all. Give me a second. I can't speak and write at the same time. So sometimes I just say dumb things. If we want to do not longitudinal, but time series, that's the word I'm looking for. If we're trying to do time series, exploratory data analysis, time series visualizations later on, this needs to be changed. Right now it's text, and we can look at that by going right. Actually, let's refresh this. We're not looking at staging, we're looking at staging 2. If we look at the columns and we come down here to date, it is a text column. That's not good if we're trying to do time series stuff. We want to change this to a date column. Now, how can we do that? Let's take a look. So let's do date, and let's not actually do it like that. Let's do date backslash. So we're just going to look at the date. Now let's change this because we want to format it how we want to format it with it, which is month, day, year. So how can we do this? Well, there's something that's very helpful, works perfectly in this situation, and is exactly what we're going to do. It's called string to date. So we're going to do string underscore, there it is right there, underscore to underscore date. It literally helps us go from a string, which is a text, that's the data type, to a date. So it's perfect. Now, all we need to do is pass through 2 parameters. We have to pass through the column, which is the date column, and then what format we want it in. Now, if you haven't done date formats before, I'm going to kind of walk you through it while we're looking at it. In order to format this properly, you use a % sign. So it's going to be a formatting for a month, a lowercase m. A capital M is something completely different. I believe it's spelled out. We can look at that in a second if we want to actually. And then we can do this right here. And then we'll do another one. So we're formatting it in the way that we want it, but also converting it to an actual date column. So now we want month, and then we want day, lowercase day. We'll do a / and then another % sign, and then a capital Y, which stands for, I believe, the 4 number long year. Let's look at this real quick. So it worked perfect. So it's taking in this format that it's in right over here and converting it into the date format. So this is the standard date format that you're going to find in MySQL. Now let's see what happens really quickly just for fun. Let's see if we do capital M. It looks like that's not going to work at all. Let's do lowercase y and just formatted it to 2020. I think it took the first two numbers, it looks like. I don't know why it's doing that, if I'm being honest. But if we keep it with the capital Y as we should, this looks perfect. This looks exactly like what we're trying to do. So you can mess around with it. It depends on how the data is formatted in your original column when it converts it to the string to date. And there's a lot of different stuff. You should just look up date formatting in MySQL. Really interesting stuff. So we're going to update this date column to this, which is our new date column. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to say update. You guys should be getting used to this by now. That's the whole point, is getting used to doing these things. So we're going to set date equal to, and then we're going to put in this right here, the string to date. Go ahead and do this. And let's run it. Make sure it worked. 2,355 rows. It looked like it did every single one, but let's go ahead and get rid of this. And let's run it. And it looks like it worked perfectly. Now there were some nulls, it looks like, and that'll be something we have to look at later when we talk about nulls. But overall, I believe this looks proper. Now, if we refresh this, let's refresh, let's come down to the date. You'll notice it is still a text. It's date, it's called text, but now it's in the date format. Now that's really important, and maybe I should have done that earlier if I'm being honest. Tried to convert it to a date column. It wouldn't work. It would give us an error. You just have to trust me on that one. But now we can do it where we can change it to a date column. So let's do alter table. Now, only do this, never ever do this on your raw table, only do this on things like a staging table, because we're about to completely change the data type of the actual table. So we want to change the layoff staging to, and then we're going to come down here and we're going to say modify column. Now what column are we modifying? It's this date column. There we go. And we want to change it to what data type? A date. And am I spelling this right? Yeah, I just need a semicolon here. Whenever I see an error, you gotta just look for the semicolons. So let's go and run this. And let's refresh, see if it worked. And the date was changed to a date, which is perfect. It's all we wanted to do, just to make sure we were doing what, or we'll set ourselves up later in the future really well. Let's look at our table. All right, this is very good. So we fixed a few just issues with the company. I believe something with the industry, the cryptocurrency. We changed the country. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, this one we're not going to look at until we look at the nulls and whatnot in just a second. So we're not looking at that one yet. And then we have this extra column that we've done. So we've done a lot so far. But the next thing in the process, step 1 was remove duplicates. Step 2 was standardization. Step 3 is working with null and blank values. Now, this is going to happen. You're going to have nulls and you're going to have blank values in here. It's somewhere. It's just going to happen. And so we need to think about what we're going to do with that information, whether we want to make them all nulls, make them all blanks, try to populate that data. Let's see what we're going to do. So let's start off with the total laid off. We'll just do where total underscore laid underscore off is null. So in order to look at the null, we say is null. Let's try equal to null. It's not going to give it to us. We have to say where it is null. So we have these values. These are completely null. And there's quite a few of them. But remember, this is also useful information. But if they have two nulls, that probably is pretty useless to us. That's something I think we'll take a look at in a little bit, actually. We'll say, and we may save this query, percentage laid off is null. So if they're both null, like these are all, I believe, fairly useless to us. These might be ones that we remove. So let's actually look at this in step 4. We look at removing rows and columns. But one thing we should take a look at, I remember this industry. Let's do industry, do distinct. This industry had some missing values. And let's take a look at that. Okay, so we have a missing value and we have a null here. So let's look at this query and let's say where industry is null, or do industry is equal to a blank, like this. We'll select everything. Let's run this. All right. So it looks like there are a few that are blank. Now, what we can try to do is see if any of these have one that's populated. Let's take Airbnb, for example. Let's search for this really quickly. And this is 100%, you know, it's just helpful. It's really, really helpful to be able to populate data that is populatable. Is that a word? Let's try it. So we'll say select everything. I just want to do where, spell that right, where company is equal to, and let's do Airbnb. There we go. Let's run this. And it looks like we have this one right here. So for example, these, whether they have them or not, we're going to try to populate these. If this Bally's or Carvana or Jewel had multiple layoffs, these ones should, if these ones aren't blank, if they have one that's not blank, we should be able to populate it. For example, not the one I was trying to do. If we look at Airbnb, this one has travel. So we know this is the travel industry. So we can populate this with travel. Again, we want this data to be the same. So if we're trying to look at, you know, what industries were impacted the most, this row isn't going to be affected, or this row won't be in our output because it's blank. We want that to be travel to represent the data properly. So we want to update it. So if this one has travel, we should be able to update this row with this travel right here. So let's see how we can write this. And let me give myself some rows right here. All right. Now what we're going to need to do is try to do a join here. So let's try writing it out in a select statement, and then we'll just change it to an update if it works. So we're going to select everything, and we're going to do this from staging 2, and we'll call this ST2. And then we'll join on itself, because what we're going to do is we're going to check in this table, does it have one that is blank and not blank? If so, update it with the non-blank one. That's essentially, in layman terms, what we're trying to write, but writing it out could be a little bit more difficult. So we're going to join on itself, and we'll call this, let's actually call this table 1, T1 and T2, because they're the exact same table. And we'll do this on, and we're going to say T1.company is equal to T2.company. So the company has to be the same. That's important. And we probably should do the location is the same as well. Now we'll do and T1.location is equal to T2.location. I'm imagining, you know, there's another Airbnb in like South America somewhere that's called Airbnb, but you know, I'm just imagining a scenario, right? Where we have to think about different use cases rather than just large companies. So those other ones, they may have ones that are in different locations. We don't want those, we don't want to change them if they're not the same. So these are the same. Now what we want to find is we're going to say, we want to say where, then we'll do T1.industry is null. And then we want to check that T2.industry is not null. We'll say and T2.industry is not null. And let's just run this. Let's see if we get anything. So let's think this through, because we got nothing in our output. We're selecting everything. We're joining on the company and the location, where T1 industry is null and T2 industry is not null. Let's just get rid of this for a second. I just want to see if this changes anything. It doesn't. And it's possible actually that instead of doing is null, we could do or, and this, I'm glad we're walking through this. We can do or is equal to blank. And let's try running this. There we go. Okay, so it looks like there's Jewel, Carvana, and Airbnb. These ones all have industries where it's null or blank and an industry is not null. So that's really good. Now, if we scroll over, see the industry here, this is our T1, this is our first table. If we scroll over, I bet we'll see the T2 industry where it's not null. Let's scroll over. And here's our industry. We have travel, transportation, and consumer. So this worked exactly as we had hoped. I can even pull this up here just to show you a little bit easier what that's doing. And we'll do T2.industry. This is kind of like what we're trying to do. So if it's blank, this one is going to be populated into here if there is one that is not blank. So that's essentially what we're going to do. Now let's write the update statement and we're going to see if it works. We have to translate this to an update statement. So we'll do update and we're going to update this right here. So we'll say update T1 and then we'll do the join right there. And now we have to do a set statement. So we'll set the T1.industry equal to, and I'll just copy this, T2.industry. I don't like writing things out. Then we say where. So we do this, just like that. And let's add a semicolon. Okay, let's confirm. So we're updating this table, T1. We're joining on T2, where the company is the exact same. We're setting T1 industry equal to T2 industry. So the T1 should be the blank one. So where the T1 industry is null or blank and T2 industry is not null. Let's go ahead and run this, semicolon. See if there were about 3 updated. Yep, rematch, 0 rows affected though. Let's go take a look. Let's run this query. Looks like those are still null. Let's run this. That one is still blank. Now let me think here. I'm trying to think of why this didn't work. And I want to walk you through my thought process. It is possible that because these are blanks and not nulls, that it's not working. I will say that is something I typically do, where I set these blanks to nulls first. So let's actually try that and see if that changes anything. I'm just going to update this. I'm going to say set the industry equal to null. And we'll say where industry is equal to blanks. So we're just changing it to null where it's blank. Let's try this. And let's go back down here to our select statement. So these are all nulls. Okay, I think this is now going to work, because now you can see on this side, it's gonna, there's only one option for it to populate it. Before there were those blanks, which I think was causing the issue. Let's get rid of this part because now we have no nulls. And now let's try running this. We're workshopping this on the fly, guys. Let's see, 3 rows affected. Hey-oh, all right, let's go see if it worked. Let's run this query and we have none. That's perfect. Let's look at Airbnb. Hey, all right. Ran into some issues, but we worked through it. We figured out the issue and now it's working properly. And we can even come back up here to select everything. And it looks like Bailey's is the only one that still has a null. Let's look up Bailey's real quick. And we'll say where company is like Bailey. Let's run this. Yeah, and there's only one. So there wasn't another row. All these other ones like Carvana and I can't remember the other, Jewel and Airbnb. Those ones had an extra row. They did multiple layoffs. This one only did 1 layoff. So we don't have another populated row where it's not null to actually populate the null row. That's really all that happened. That's why that worked that way. So I'm really happy that worked. Awesome job, guys. I was starting to question myself. Do I even know how to use MySQL? I mean, I was really starting to question my abilities here. Let's take a look. I think that is all we're going to do for populating null values. Now, here's why. Things like total laid off, percentage laid off, funds raised. How are we going to populate that with the data that we have here? I don't believe we can. Now, we might be able to populate, we might be able to populate some of this if we had the company total. Like if we had the original total before laid off, because then we could do calculations like Oh, these companies went completely out of business. That's not good. At 1%, that means 100% was laid off. But if we had, the total, they had 50 employees and 100% were laid off, we could populate the total laid off. Whoops, did it again. We could populate the total laid off by saying, if this is 50, 100% was laid off, that's 50 people were laid off. We don't have that data, so we can't go and populate it, I don't believe. Funds raised, we might be able to scrape some data from the web and populate this, but that's a totally different thing, not part of this project. So I think the data cleaning for the null values and blank values, I think that's going to be done. It's possible that the stage could be the same, and if you want to go check, you can, but we're going to keep chugging along because we want to remove columns and rows that we need to. Now, if you remember, we were looking at this before. Did I save that query? Let's go look. Here we go. I'll bring this down to the bottom. All right. These rows, let's really take a look at these and think about if this is going to be helped us. What we are trying to do with this data in the near future is we're not just trying to identify a company or a location that had layoffs, and maybe we are. Maybe we are trying to do that, but these have no layoffs and no percentage laid off. So in my opinion, I don't know if these laid off any at all. I believe that we can get rid of these. Now, deleting data is a very interesting thing to do. You have to be confident. Am I 100% confident? No, not really. But I'm confident enough to know that what we're about to look at in the next one, we're going to be using these total laid off a lot, percentage laid off a lot when we're looking at actually querying the data and doing some exploratory data analysis. So we're going to use these a lot. I don't think I'm not even sure if these are accurate. I'm not even sure if they actually did have a layoff. It's saying they did, but it doesn't show if they laid off any. So can we delete this? Yes. Should we delete this? It's iffy. I'm not 100% if I'm being completely honest. And there's a lot of rows like that. This could be like 100 or so. I'm really not. I mean, I could run a query and run it, but I don't want to. It's not a big deal. The point being, I don't think we need this information, so we're going to get rid of it. If nothing else, just to show that you can do it. So now we'll say delete, and then we'll do from here. There we go. So now we're going to delete these rows. Let's try to select them again, and they are gone. So we deleted the ones where the total laid off was blank and the percentage laid off was blank. I can't trust that data. I really can't. And let's go back down. I'm right here. Semicolon. So sometimes I have to walk myself through these things. All right. This row num. I mean, come on. We don't need that anymore. Let's get rid of it. So what we can do now, it's a little bit different syntax. We want to drop a column from this table. So we have to do the alter table again. We're going to alter table layoff staging 2. And then we're going to say drop column and row underscore num. If we run this, then we run the table again, should be gone. And it is. So this is it. This is our finalized clean data. Now in the next project, we're going to be doing exploratory data analysis on this cleaned data. We're going to finding trends and patterns and running complex queries. It's going to be phenomenal. I'm super excited about it. And I love this data cleaning one. I made some mistakes. I'll be the first one to admit, but cleaning data is not always a straightforward thing. You have to kind of mess around with it, figure it out. And that's what we did. Whoa, took a while. So just to recap, we removed duplicates, we standardized the data, we looked at the null values or blank values, then we removed any columns or rows. So we did a lot. If you go back and you actually scroll through here and look at some of this code that we wrote, it's not super beginner stuff. So if you're following along with these things and you are getting this project, this is a fantastic project to put on your portfolio. I myself would put this project on my portfolio because it's a very, very relevant thing. So I hope this was helpful. I'm just going to keep scrolling while I talk, but I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something. We did a lot of different things that we didn't even do in the lessons, which I like doing because you can't cover every single aspect of MySQL in lessons, right? Sometimes you just got to get in there, get into the nitty gritty, clean some data, and you'll find or discover new things. try new things. And now we're getting to the bottom, and awesome work. Awesome work. This is an A1 project. I think this should be in everyone's portfolio. If I don't see it in your portfolio and you send it to me, I'm going to say it's the garbage portfolio. So this is a good one. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're still listening to me. Awesome work. Really awesome work, for real. You're just following along with the tutorial. That's what it feels like. But by the end of this, I just know you're learning a ton, and you're trying new things, and you're really pushing yourself beyond just simple tutorials. So trust me when I say this is not easy. Not everyone was able to make it to the end. So great work getting here. So I will see you guys in the next project when we actually explore this data. We'll walk through a lot of different ways to do that. So thank you again for watching. If you like this, be sure to like and subscribe below. I put out tons of content about all this stuff, and I absolutely love it. It is definitely one of my passions in life. So go ahead and do that, and I will see you in the next video. Hello everybody, in this project, we're going to be focusing on exploratory data analysis. Now in the first project, we worked with this exact data set and we cleaned up the entire thing. And that was a really good project, and it set us up to explore the data. And with all that clean data, we'll be able to look at our data much better and find better insights while we are using it. Now, normally when you start the EDA process or the exploratory data analysis process, you have some idea of what you're looking for. Sometimes, not always. And sometimes when you're exploring the data, you also find issues with the data that you then have to clean. So even though I did a data cleaning video and then an exploratory data analysis video, and they're kind of separate projects, sometimes those coincide together where you're exploring it and cleaning it at the same time. Now, what we're going to be doing here with this data set, we're just going to be kind of exploring it. I don't have any agenda. I don't have any, one thing that I want to look at. I just kind of want to look at everything, and we'll kind of discover and go about things as we are learning and looking at this data set. We will, however, start off really simple with kind of the basics, work a little bit more towards the tougher stuff, and then at the end, we'll have some more advanced things that I think will be really fun. So with that being said, let's start off with kind of more easier things. We'll kind of just ease our way into exploring this data set. Let's pull this down and let's copy this right down here. Now we're going to be working with this total laid off and percentage laid off, or most likely this total laid off quite a bit. The percentage laid off isn't super helpful because we don't know how large the company is. We don't have another column here that says, here's how many total employees they had. And then, okay, they had a percentage laid off. We won't work as much with this one, but we'll work quite a bit with this total laid off. Let's look real quick. We can look at something like the max total. And I need to use a parentheses, max total laid underscore off. And let's look at this. So on one day, there was somebody out there who had the max total laid off of 12,000 people. That's a lot of people to lay off in one go. That's a lot. Let's also take a look at the max, and I think it was percentage laid off. Now let's run this. And it looks like 1. Now 1 represents 100. That means 100% of the company was laid off. And that's not great. It just means an entire company went under essentially. We can actually take a look at that because I'm interested to see, if there's any companies I recognize or can see where, and you come right down here, where the percentage laid off is equal to 1. Let's go ahead and look at this. And let's take a look. So we have this ahead. I'm just going to go through here and see if I recognize any of these. I'm in the crypto space, BlockFi. I feel like I recognize that one. I don't know. Let's keep going. Deliveroo. It's not good. They let go of 120 people. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm just kind of scrolling through here trying to see if I recognize any. These are companies that like completely went under or lost all their employees. Volt Bank. Interesting. Just interesting to me. We're going to be taking a look at a lot of stuff, but these are companies that completely went under. That's unfortunate. We can also order by total underscore laid underscore off in that's not how you spell it. In descending, we'll see which company went under had the largest. So this one had 2,000. This construction company had 2,400 people. They went under. Doesn't say what stage they were at, but that's in the United States. We can also take a look at, and there's another column over here called funds raised in millions. Let's look at that one. So I'm going to see, these are companies that had a lot of funding or potentially a ton of funding. Let's go over. This is like $2.4 billion, I believe. Like, I think is like a ton of money. Quibi, I believe I know this company. In BlockFi, I thought I had heard of them. I'm pretty sure I know who that is. So Quibi is one that I'm definitely familiar with. It was like a short form media company. Yeah. And then there's British Volt, which looks like an electric company that went under. So, you know, some big companies that went under in 2023, 2020, 2022. So that's interesting. So we have a lot of companies here, and we're just looking at that had total laid off. But let's take a look. Let's use group by real quick. I want to look at the company, and I also want to look at the sum of the total laid off. And for that, we need to use a group by the company. And let's just start with this. And I'm sure we'll use an order by in a second. Yeah, let's order by. Let's just do 2 for now in descending. And 2 stands for 1, 2. This is the total laid off. So for the total for this table, and we don't know how far back it goes. We haven't checked that yet. We'll check that in a second. But for this table, you should recognize a lot of these companies. So I think it starts in like 2020 until like sometime in 2023. But this is Amazon let go of 1,800 people, Google 12,000. I'm guessing that's at one time because that was the max that we looked at earlier. This is Facebook or Meta, Salesforce, Microsoft, Philips, Uber, Dell, Cisco, Peloton. I mean, these are a ton of big companies. Carvana, they let go of thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Twitter, that's not surprising, given what's the change of things. Groupon, ton of people, or a ton of companies, and that's a lot of people that have been let go. Now let's really quickly, before we keep going, I want to look at our date ranges real quick. So let's select everything. We'll do from there. And how do we want to do this? Let's do minimum of date. And let me do it like this, date. And then we'll do the max as well, because I want to look at the date range that we have here. Let's run this. It looks like it starts in 2020 of 3/11. So right when, like, I believe the pandemic started, or the COVID-19 started. I want to say that's like right when it hit at least us in the United States. And then this is almost exactly 3 years later. So early 2023. So just in those 3 years, you know, here's some of what we're looking at. These companies have let go of quite a few people or have had layoffs. We can also take this exact thing. Oops, what did I do here? Copy this again. We can also take this exact thing and look at quite a few other things. There was the industry. So we can look at industry, like what industry got hit the most during this time or had the most layoffs. All we're looking at right now is total laid off. We can also look at percentage in a little bit. But it looks like consumer got hit really hard, retail really hard. That makes a lot of sense with shops closing down because people couldn't come in for the coronavirus. Now we're just making assumptions, right? But you know, during that time, it was mostly COVID that impacted a lot of stuff. Then we have transportation, finance, healthcare, food, real estate. Yeah, there's a lot of people. Let's look at the lowest ones. Manufacturing, fintech, aerospace, energy, legal. So low numbers on those, high numbers on these. So really interesting. Let's go back up. Just want to look at our whole table really quickly, see what we got while we're looking at this stuff. And let's run this. And we're looked at the company, looked at the industry. I would really be interested to look at the country as well, which countries, at least from this data set, and we can copy, or we can go right here, country, because I believe that United States had the most. Holy mackerel. They had by far the most. Then India, this is 256,000 people lost their jobs. I think we'll look at the dates in a little while, like a kind of like time series, like how many per year, per month, per day, or whatever we want to look at. But goodness gracious, that's a lot of people within just 3 years in the United States. India, Netherlands, Sweden, Brazil, Germany, United Kingdom, then it goes down and down and down. But these are just reported from this data set that I had gotten. So really, really interesting. Good night. The United States had much more than most for sure. Let's actually look at that date real quick, or we can look at it by year. So we have this date, and if we do it like this, and we can do it by date real quick. So this is going to do it by individual date. And let's order by, let's do 1. This is the most recent date. So it's literally by date that's reported. We don't want that. Let's do it by the year. So 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. We can do that fairly easily. We'll use this year function and we'll group by the year as well. Let's try running this. There we go. It looks like in 2020, 80,000 people, 2021, 16,000, 160,000 in 2022. This looks like the worst year. And then we only have 3 months of data in 2023. There's 125,000, holy smokes. So in 2023, it looks like we're ramping up because I'm recording this in 2023, about a month after this data set, that we got this data set. There's 125,000 people around the world, but just in those first 3 months. So this is going to be a lot higher than even 2022. That's pretty wild. Very, very interesting. One other one while we're looking at group by, there was a column, and you can go back and look at it if you'd like, but it's called stage. And this shows the stage of the company. And if we run this, and we're all just looking at total off, but if you look at the stage of the company, this is like the different series that they're in, A, B, C, D. A, I believe, is like a Series A funding. That's like a super starting. Oh, this is like a seed phase. And then there's Series A, and then it goes up, until usually they go like they do IPO or they get acquired or something. Now, if we go up here and we do 2 descending, I want to see which one had the most. So this is post IPO. This is the Amazon, the Googles of the world, the large companies that are post IPO or initial public offering. Then there's unknown. We don't know which that is. A lot of layoffs from acquisitions, C, D, B, all the way down. So it looks like most of it's coming from these ones right here. Really, really interesting. Let's go look at percentages. I'm just going to literally I'm going to literally copy these. And with percentages, I don't think. Let me look at percentage layoff. I don't think the sum is going to be a good indicator. I don't know if this is a good one to even look at. Because, and then we're looking at company right now, because percentages refer to a percent of the company, right? So we don't have hard numbers because we don't know how large these companies are. So now that we're actually looking at this percentage laid off isn't super relevant. Really the one that's kind of more, this is a better use for what we're looking at is this total laid off. Because again, we don't know these sums. We could look at like the average, right? But again, that just doesn't help us that much. I don't think we're gonna really dive into that too much. Is my feeling. Now, one thing that I would be really interested in is to kind of look at the progression of layoff, right? You could call this a rolling sum. So start at the very earliest of layoffs and do a rolling sum until the very end of these layoffs. And let's go to the bottom. This is where it's going to start getting a little tougher. And there's, we're just doing a little bit of exploratory data analysis, digging into this a little bit. You can go and dig into this as much as you'd like. You don't have to just do what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to show you some stuff. Now let's try to do rolling total of layoffs. We could do that on the day, although I feel like that's going to be way too many rows. Let's do it based off the month. So right here in this month. Now, let's see. If we do just the month, let's do something. I'll show you the month, and that's going to be an issue. And I'm in my head, I already know. But let's look at it. We could do something like select from, and let's get this. There we go. So if we do, we'll do substring. Let me add a semicolon. Let's do substring, and we want to pull out this month right here. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So start at position 6. And this is, of course, in the date column. We'll start at position 6, and then we'll take 2. Let's just run this really quickly. And there's our month. So this, we could do this as month, right? Or like this. Is that correct? Yeah. So as month. So this is our month that we're doing it. Now, if we group on this and we do like something like a sum of total laid off, I think that's the column. And then we do a group by on this month. So it'd be like this right here. We'll do group by this. Let's try running this. We should be able to do month as well. Let's try this real quick as well, because I don't want to have this if I don't have to. Run it. Perfect. So the months right here don't show us the year. So if we're trying to get a rolling total of just the month, it's actually could work fine when we actually implement the rolling total, use a window function. But the issue with this is it's just going to show us month. So this is 2020. This is January of 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, any other years we have it. This is not a great rolling total. What if we did 1 all the way to, I want to say it's 7, 6, 7. Let's try this. Now this is going to give us a much better, and let's order this, order by 1 ascending. This is just our first column. So now, well, we should do it where it's not. Give me a second. I'm figuring this out as we go. We'll do where the month, write that, where the month is not null. I'm just going to get rid of that one. And of course, that doesn't work because we're looking at the substring. So let's try doing this. There we go. It just wasn't reading in that month that I was trying to use. Let's go down. Now, here's what we're going to do is we want to take it from the very first month and we're grouping everything. So these are all the layoffs from 2020 of 03. So that's March of 2020. Then we have April, May, and these are the layoffs. So this is really good. This is exactly what I was imagining in my head. So we want this, and this is just 12 months in a year, and we go all the way to the bottom. And I want to do a rolling sum of this. So let's see how we can do that. And we'll use this logic in a little bit. Let's copy this. And let's do select everything. We'll do right here. Now what we actually want to do, now that I'm thinking about it, is when you want to take this data and we want to do the rolling sum based off this exact thing. So we actually need to take this. Let's get rid of this. And we'll do it with a CTE. So we'll say with, and we'll do rolling underscore total. That we'll say as, and then we'll put this in here just like that. So with rolling total as, now we're going to say select, and we'll just do from here. Now what we need to do is we need to select the month. So let's go ahead and select that month, and we'll take it just like this. So we'll select the month, and we need to do a rolling total. All we have to do for that is the sum of which column we're doing. Let's actually change this real quick. We're going to call this as total off. I'm just going to keep it simple. So the sum of total off. So now we're doing that, but we want to do it over. And all we need to add into here is an order by. We're not going to partition by anything because in here we already did a group by. So it's, kind of like partitioning it. We just need to say order by. And we just need to order by the month, I believe. So let's try that. And let's run it. Let's do that. And we actually need to, since we're doing this, we need this at the end. And we can rename this if we'd like. So we can do this as rolling underscore total, all lowercase. Now let's try running this. And let's see what we get. Okay, and this looks correct. So starting in 2020 of 03, we had 9,000 layoffs. Then the next total we added onto here. Now, this visually isn't the best. I would like the month right here as well. So let me actually add, let me create its own row, put a comma here, Then right here, I want to keep this total off so we can visually see better. Much better. Okay. So we have the month, and as it goes down, we're having more laid off. Now this is our rolling total. Here's essentially how this works. It starts with 9,628. Then it adds on the next month, which is 26,000, which equals 36,000. Then it adds on the next month and we get 62. Adds on the next month, 69, right? It keeps going all the way down. This just shows each month how many were laid off. And this shows a month by month progression all the way down to the bottom. So let's just, take a look. So in 2020 of 03, we had 9,000. By the end of 2020, we had about 81,000 or so. Then at the beginning, right here, all the way down to 2021. By the end of 2021, we only had 96,000. So 2021 was a good year, it looks like, comparatively. We had 91,000 people let go. And here we only have 96,000 let go. So that's what, 81, that's only like 15,000 people. That's like nothing, comparatively. Then in 2022, things start ramping up dramatically. It looks like we have 12,000 people, 17,000, 16,000, and they're adding up. It's going from 97 all the way up to good night. Right before the holidays in 2022 of this past year, I mean, we had 247,000 people. So that's like 130 some thousand. My math's really bad. It's like 150,000. And then we only have, we have even more here actually. And then we only have the first 3 months of 2023. So these months right here were really devastating, just around the world. Now we could also break this out potentially by country so we can see how many per country, but this is just around the world. That's a lot of people losing their jobs, all the way up to 383,000. So in this range, 383,000 from March of 2023 all the way back to March of 2020 lost their jobs. And this is just reported. I'm sure there was, much more than that. But this is at like tech companies, larger companies that have like Series A funding, IPOs, et cetera. But a lot of small businesses went out of business. So we don't have that information in this data set. So I think that's what we're going to do next is kind of look at the company maybe, because I'm always interested in the company. And actually earlier, let's not do that one. Earlier, we're looking at the company, the sum of total laid off. Let's bring this down. Let's run that because that's what rolling total is, by the way. Rolling totals are great. Really good for visualizations as well. Let's see. Yeah, so I want to take a look at these companies, but I want to see how much they were laying off per year. So instead of just looking at it as a total, we'll break it out by the year. Now, I'm just going to warn you, this most likely will be our last one in the lesson. This is going to be probably our hardest one yet. Potentially, we'll see. Maybe the other one was harder earlier. Now, let's use this kind of as a starting point. But what we're going to need to do is we want to take the company, but I also want the date. So I need to do a comma and then date. So we need our date here, and I'm going to do that. I need to group by the date as well. So we'll do date, and let's run this. All right. Now this is just doing the, company and the exact date. We don't want to do that. Let's actually do the year. Let's just look at the year. I think that'll be plenty. You could also do the exact same thing as we did above with the substring. Although I think that's going to get a little messier. Just a thought. Let's run this. Okay, so now we're looking at just the year. We're grouping by year. Let's order by, let's say the company. And we'll do that in ascending. There we go. And let's run this. So now we have it open. Let's see who, you can see people who made multiple layoffs. This is in 2020, they let go of 200. And then in 2023, they let go of 155. This is a company I've never heard of. So this is already looking really good. Now, let's say we wanted to use this. And what we want to do is we want to rank which years they laid off the most employees. Now, this is just a small sample. We'll look at more in just a little bit. We can actually look at, let's just do 3. 3 descending, just like this. Should be large companies. So, some of these companies like Microsoft, even Amazon right here and Amazon right there, they let go of multiple or thousands of people in different years. So I want to rank those. I want to say, the highest one based off of the laid off should be ranked number 1. That's the year that they laid off the most people. So let's go ahead and try to do that. Thing we need to do is do a CTE. We'll start with that. Let me add some more things down here so we're good to go. So we'll do with, let's do company. So this is going to be the company year underscore year. We'll do it as, and that's what this is going to be. This is our company year. And we can do select everything from company year. It's going to be the exact query that we're looking at. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so this is good. Now I do want to change these columns, and I can do that right here. We'll do company. Let's call this years, and then I'm gonna do total laid off again. So total underscore laid underscore off. This is the sum, right? Total laid off per year. Let's go ahead and run this now. There we go. We have company, years, and total laid off. So this looks much better. And what we're gonna do is select everything, but we want to partition it probably based off this years right here. And then we want to rank it based off how many they laid off in that year. So we'll get to see who laid off the most people per year, because some companies like Amazon, they let off multiple people per year, but was it the highest per year? That's kind of what we're going to look at. So we'll do dense underscore rank, and we're going to do that over. Now we're going to partition by, oops, that's not how you spell partition. Partition by, we want to partition by the years. So all of the 2021 layoffs will be in the same partition. All of the 2022 will be in the same partition, and we'll do years. And we want to also order by the total laid off. Now we want to do that in descending. So we'll do total laid off descending. And then we want to add this dense rank to it. So let's try it. Let's run this. Good night. That's a big one. So let's take a look. So in 2021, it looks like, or 2020, it looks like Uber had the highest. Now we want to take out these nulls. So let's do where years, let's say, is not null. And let's run that. There we go. So in 2020, and that's what we're partitioning on first, it looks like this is 1, 2, 3. These are the top ones. And let's order by, and let's order by the rank first. Let's call this as, bring it down. What do we want to call this? We'll call this as ranking. There we go. So order by ranking, ascending. There we go. Now we have our ranking. So in 2020, this is the biggest one of layoffs. 2021, this is the biggest layoff, I guess. We'll have to take a look. In Meta, in 2022, they had the biggest layoff, and Google had the biggest layoff total for 2023. So this looks correct, but I kind of want to filter on this ranking to be able to only filter maybe the top like 5 companies per year. And I think we can do that. Let's actually get rid of this. I think what we should do is we should add this as another CTE and query off of that. So now we'll call this company underscore year underscore rank. So now we have the year rank as, we'll have our query. Oops, have our query. So now this is our company year rank. So now if we do select everything from company year rank, this, we run it. Okay, so now we have our rankings. Let's come down. Now we have our rankings, but I just want to filter it based off of that ranking. We'll say where ranking is greater than or equal to, let's say 5. We'll look at the top 5 rankings. Let's run this. And I said greater than, I wanted less than. Run that. That's looking good. Okay, so really quickly, we have in 2020, we had, these are the top 5 people who laid people off. Uber, Booking.com, Groupon, Swiggy, Airbnb. In 2021, the largest layoff was ByteDance, which I think is TikTok, right? Katera, Zillow. Yeah, these are the top 5. So 2021 or 2022 and 2023 were definitely the largest as well. We have Meta, 11,000 people, Amazon, Cisco, Peloton, and Carvana, as well as Philips. They tied. That's why we have the dense ranking, because some of these will be ties. And then we have Google in 2023, all the way down to Dell. And these are all ones I know: Microsoft, Ericsson, Amazon, Salesforce, and Dell. So this is really, really interesting. Just looking at a year-by-year snapshot, right? These are the total laid off for each company. And we could even go back and change this for like industry or, really whatever we want to change this to. This is just an interesting query in general to look at, per year. And we could go back and change it per month, or lots of stuff we can change in here. But this is really interesting to me. It just looks like a lot of the large tech companies took some big L's, took some big hits. Let's recap this query really quickly in case, it's tough to follow. But we created this query up here, and we were looking at the company by the year and how many people they let off. Then right over here, we said with the company year, we changed these columns. This is our CTE. So we created our first CTE. Then we went and we gave it a rank, and we wanted to, filter on that rank. So we did this rank as another CTE. We just did a comma, had a second CTE, and we hit off the first CTE, the company year, which is right here. We hit off our first CTE to make this second CTE. And then finally, we queried off of the final CTE. Definitely not an easy query to kind of think through and walk through, but I hope, you're able to follow because, that's a really good query. This is something I've definitely done in my real job when I was working with a lot of healthcare data. This is a lot of stuff that I would do. And so this is a, pretty good query to know how to do. But with that being said, we are done with this lesson. I hope this wasn't too short. I don't know how long I ran, but we looked at a lot of different stuff. Let's go back to the top. Again, we were just exploring the data. We looked at laid off a lot, looked a lot at the company, when these dates actually started for these layoffs in this data set. We looked at the country, the actual year of laid off. Then we went to a little bit more difficult things. We looked at it per month. So per month, how many layoffs they had, and then we did a rolling total. And this one was a pretty good one using that substring. I love substrings, man. They're awesome. Or lady, they're awesome. And then we came down here and we did the one we just did with multiple CTEs in the company. I think it was a really, really good, solid project. Combine that with that data cleaning project, and man, you got just a really good start with some MySQL projects. And this one can be expanded upon. Don't stop where I stopped, right? Let me go back to the top. Don't stop where I stopped, right? This data set has so much data in it. You can do a lot of different things. And even if you want to, you could go and find these companies right over here, and you could try to get their total company that they had. And you could use this column a lot more. That'd be really interesting with some calculations there. So with that being said, that is the end of our exploratory data analysis project. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something both in the data cleaning project and in this exploratory data analysis project. That's what this is all about. And getting the confidence and gaining the experience to create these projects and add those to your portfolios. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, check out my video on how to create a free portfolio website using GitHub. Awesome. I highly recommend it. And you can add these to your portfolio. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, if you learned anything at all, be sure to like and subscribe below. Check out my channel for tons of other videos just like this one and more. I will see you in the next video.